Hello and welcome to Tabletop Oddity. My name is Jay and today I would like to talk about painting requirements for Star Wars Legion. Well, more the lack of painting requirements. In most cases, I think like Adepticon had one, or maybe LV, or one or the other. But before we start talking about that, if at the end of the video you like the video, do press like. And if you're not subscribed to the channel, please consider doing that as it really does help. Hopefully you can't hear the annoying dog yapping in the background. Anyway, painting requirements. So, essentially, in the official organised play stuff for Star Wars Legion, there's no requirement to have your miniatures painted. Tournament organisers are free to set their own, which, you know, is fair enough. I understand that. But in general, we're going to talk about whether or not that, like, having it so formalised is a good thing or a bad thing. Straight up, I think it's a good thing, but let's talk about why it might be a bad thing. Some people say having painted miniatures looks nicer and it's a better experience for everyone. And to those people, I say, no, it's not. Not to everybody. Some people aren't as bothered about the painting as you or they might be. And some people might struggle to get the painting done in time or feel like there's pressure to have the painting done. So enjoyable is subjective, and if on the table you think that it looks better, you're probably right in that sense, but it's the other things that go along with it that, you know, make it less important in my view. It's mainly that, isn't it? It's that they want to get to the table and have a aesthetically pleasing view of the game. It's all that the paint does, as long as the models are built appropriately. I'm not talking about like converting, I'm talking about just the paint. Obviously, you need to have your models built relatively appropriately depending on the level of the tournament. The more formal you get, the more exact you should follow to the box art kind of thing. But paints, well, yeah, that's in theory, most tournaments you're no requirement to have those. And I get it. To be fair, I do get it. You spend a lot of money, you spend a lot of time, you want to get to a tournament and enjoy a nice looking table. But if you go into a tournament, maybe the tournament's not the best place to have that, because you are held to the rules of the tournament. Do you know what I mean? If you're going to play with your friends, you could be to your friends like, paint your models, guys. Come on, or girls, paint your models. Come on. But at a tournament, you already know what you're getting into, kind of thing. Now, I personally think there shouldn't be painting requirements at tournaments. Full stop. And I think like LVO and Adepticon, if one of them did it, maybe even both of them did it. And I personally wouldn't do that if I was making an event, because I feel like it puts pressure on people to have stuff painted. And to me, the game is more important than the aesthetic, to me personally. But as I said, I can understand why some people say that's not the case. But again, if I was going to a tournament and that was laid out before I got my ticket, the rules and all that was straight up and, yup, here you are, you need to be painted, I'm not going to complain about it. Do you know what I mean? But I think the lack of painting requirement is actually a good thing. Just, I say, for the game as a whole. And what do I mean by that? So, games like X-Wing, you obviously don't need to paint your models. And I think like the painting requirement can be a bit of a limiting factor to get people getting into the game. Nobody really generally walks up to a tournament with nothing painted. Generally, it's various stages of painting. You know, even right at the very start when Legion first came out, people had at least base coated the stormtroopers white or what have you. You know, and that sort of still remains to this day. If anything, most people are naturally painting all of their stuff. But I like to think that if you were straight into the hobby, straight into a tournament, maybe that's the only way you can get games. You don't have to worry about painting absolutely everything, getting all the details on, and being fully ready. You can literally just be like, well, I've painted some of these, let's play the game. You know, I like that. The more you reduce the barriers to entry, the happier I am, I think. I think because I'm more about the game rather than the aesthetic, the people who share that kind of viewpoint are all about probably getting into the game as quick as possible rather than, you know, spending all the time hobbying. We're not people who are lumping people with me who are going to be converting for hours and hours and hours, filling all the gaps, taking off all the mold lines, painting the little details, painting eyes. We're going to go for basic standard across the board. And I think the Legion community has shown that if you actually don't bother with the painting requirement, most people paint most of the stuff anyway. And the only times you generally see stuff that's unpainted, lazy people like me, who are, if anything, I'm on the extremes here, and I generally have most of it sort of painted, but not really based, and I'm at various stages of completion, which is terrible. I really need to own my game and sort my life out, but mainly because I do a YouTube channel based around it, so you think I should be able to get it done. But, we've all got busy lives. We work and then frolic and all that kind of stuff, having fun. And, busy lives, you don't necessarily have the time to paint everything. But I like the idea that there's an event this weekend and I'm considering taking 2 units of Death Troopers. Well, I've sort of painted one. I've got one finished. I just need to base it. My other unit of Death Troopers is in the box. But am I too worried about it? No. It's not like I feel like I need to get them built, get them painted, because I don't have to get them painted. Worst case scenario, I could really just take the box with me and probably assemble them there. The fact that the miniatures for Star Wars Legion at the moment are really easy to build. They're not like push fit or anything like that, but they can only really go in one way at the moment until we get sprues, and I'm sort of hoping they keep the level of detail on sprues a little bit simple for this reason. But because, it's quite quick to assemble the model if you wanted, I know for a fact, come Friday night, I can build that unit of Death Troopers and play with it. And you know what? Nobody will say anything. Like, maybe Ellis will take the mick out of me because he keeps telling me to get my stuff painted, but generally nobody's going to, complain. And that'd be the case if I rocked up with stuff that's 6 months old, a year old. Nobody would really say anything. It's not really done. And the reality is, as I said, most of the stuff is painted, and the game looks great anyway. So I just sort of feel like the barrier to entry that a painting requirement can have, whilst maybe not very high to some people, can be a tipping point for certain others. And I feel like it's better without it. Personally, that's the way I view a painting requirement. I just feel like it's just better to not have, because you get more people who are more likely to attend. And imagine if I picked up Star Wars Legion now, and maybe I don't know anybody who plays. All I know is that there's an event in Element Games in June 15th. Oh, and the closer I get to that point, the more I realise, I need to paint, and then there is a painting requirement. I need to buy the stuff, build the stuff, paint the stuff, get that on the table, and it's like, I'm not sure I can make that. Whereas when you think, I just need to, worst case scenario, build it, well, I can probably do that and probably make it. So, yeah, for me, I'm a fan of the lack of painting requirement. I think it possibly brings people in who maybe played X-Wing. There's less pressure on them to adopt, buy a shed ton of paints. You buy a paint like this, it's nearly £3, and you might end up needing 30 of them or something crazy. It also adds an extra level of cost, which is fine. Maybe people want to spread that out. And if you start having painting requirements, maybe it becomes difficult to spread that out. I'm not saying that's everybody, but the odd couple of people that might affect, I think that's another plus point. And really, the only downside to it, as I keep going back to, is the aesthetic. It does look like the game looks better when you've got a good table, good terrain, good models, well painted, well based. The game looks better in that situation. I agree with that. I don't think it's hard to disagree with that. And ideally, that's what everybody would want. But the fact that the amount of time required to get to that, and as I just mentioned, sometimes money, the amount of time and money to get to that means it's sometimes not really achievable in people's general lives. Yeah, to be fair, I could have painted all my stuff. I'm just being a bit lazy. But some people, it's not just being lazy, it's time commitments and that kind of stuff. As I said before, we're all busy, whether you've got wife, kids, hobbies, etc. And yeah, for me, I think the painting requirement just means you put in not an artificial barrier to entry, but you're putting an extra barrier that might put a couple of people off. And I really like the fact that we don't have one. Yes, tournament organisers are more than free to make their own and have their own rules, and as long as that's known before I have to buy my ticket, then I'm sort of okay with that. Then it's my choice. But I feel like if it's an official FFG event, we should sort of follow the FFG rules. But I'm not really bothered if we don't, as long as I said the organisers themselves make it clear. So yeah, that's my little ramble there about painting requirements. Are you, would you, you play me at a tournament, are you like, Jay, paint your stuff. Paint your goddamn stuff. Or are you just like, yep, let's play the game, let's have fun. I'm basically the second person. I'm not really, but I'm not going to, if you've painted something nicely, I'm going to pick it up and be like, ooh, you've got skills and time that I can't be bothered with. But yeah, like, I very much like admiring other people's models. It sounds weird. But I wouldn't bother if, conversely, they've just not painted half the stuff. I would literally just not bother. As long as the models are correct on the table, near enough, I'm like, let's crack on and play. But yeah, I thought I'd just have a talk about it. It was just something, I think we mentioned it in the podcast with Warcorgi. I think we may have mentioned it briefly there, so I thought, we mentioned it, maybe making a video, and I think that has happened. Did I mention it in the podcast? Maybe we talked about it offline. Either way, me and Warcorgi were chatting about it, so there you have it. Yeah, let's go. Let me know your thoughts about the painting requirement in the comments below. Very intrigued on what your thoughts are. Do you agree? Do you think it's a good idea to not have a painting requirement? Do you think there should be a painting requirement? Do you have any other reasons to have a painting requirement beyond the way that it looks better? Because I can't think of one, but there might be, and I'm not the supreme leader or an almighty being, so I don't necessarily know. As I said, let me know in the comments below. Have a most beautiful day. Do like and subscribe, and thank you to my Patreons. I do very much really appreciate that. Have a beautiful day, and goodbye.